My dad was tough. I remember one instance where we were always around construction. We grew up in sawdust and cement work and brickwork and stonework. And I remember one night he said to me, tomorrow, Sunday, we worked every day. We got to move those bricks. It was like a truckload of bricks on one side of the house to the other. That's what we're going to do Sunday. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to get my cousin and I'm going to do it all Saturday night. So this way, Sunday, we could hang out. I haven't seen, never go to a beach. We never did anything. It would just work. And I don't know, we finished at 5 a.m. and I went into the kitchen, my dad's kitchen, got some water, and literally passed out on the tile floor because we had gone all night. And he wakes me up an hour later. It's like 6 a.m., right? He comes into the kitchen. He says, oh, I see you got the bricks. Move to the back. That's good. Now we can get more stuff done today. And so it was just that kind of mentality and that kind of attitude my whole life. Not necessarily screaming, but they could be subtle little jabs or, oh, if you can't do it, I'll get somebody else to do it.
You grew up in Queens.
Grew up in Queens.
And how long did you stay in Queens before you moved out?
Well, my parents got divorced. My parents got divorced in the 80s, late 80s, and my mom took us to Ithaca, New York, because my mom was into, she was very crunchy. She was somewhat of a hippie. She became, she was meditating. She had gurus.
Do you meditate?
I meditate 5 minutes before bed, and then I'm out. That's the way I fall asleep. We didn't want any part of her. She was just so out there. This was not, there were no Whole Foods or yoga journals back then. So she was a crackpot, from everybody's perspective, including mine and my sister's. So she moves to Ithaca, New York, which is more welcoming to that lifestyle. And every weekend we're going back and forth, back to Queens to see our dad. And then summers we would spend with him. So I couldn't wait to get back to Queens because that's where the tough guys were. That's where the money was, the Cadillacs. That's where I wanted to be. Only later, 20 years later, realizing, wow, my mom had it right. My dad had it wrong.
You did have a lot of tough guys influencing you, right? You wrote a book, The Spartan Way, came out last year. And in the book, you talk about, what's his name?
Gas Pipe?
No, Joe the Earl. Joe the Ear.
Yeah, Joe the Ear. Yeah.
And Joe the Ear had quite an impact on you, right? He taught you a lot about it.
He was my neighbor, and he was a big boss. And he saw what was going on in my family, and he took a liking to me. And he helped me build my first business, but he gave me a bunch of lessons. These guys had their little catchy phrases, and at that time I was very impressionable. And I learned a lot, not only from him, but eventually I had 700 customers. They all weren't at his level, but they all did tough things for a living. And I learned a lot. The other thing, I learned what I wanted my family to be someday and what I didn't want my family to be. The mistakes I saw people make. I can't even tell you how many pools I would clean where a guy would, it was clear that was his girlfriend's house that I had to take. There's so many wacky things going on. We can go on for hours with the stories.
Okay, so you go to Ithaca, but you couldn't wait to get back to Queens.
Couldn't wait to get back.
When do you go to Vermont?
So graduate, get back to Queens, running my business, end up on Wall Street, do that for a while, start to feel unhealthy, not chasing purpose anymore, but making a lot of money.
How long did that take you to feel unhealthy, to feel that way, to really start to feel unhealthy and just burn out?
I would say it was a couple of years, 2-3 years in. At first, the $500 dinners, then $1,000 dinners, then $3,000 dinners, they feel really good, right? You feel like big man on campus, you can buy nice clothes, you're around people from Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, you're feeling like you made it. But it gets unhealthy really quick. And it didn't feel good, ultimately, deep down inside. And I only truly felt, look, I was with a really wealthy guy this morning. And even he said it. He just likes being around Spartan because it just feels purposeful. You're changing lives. You're doing good things. And I didn't have anything like that when I was on Wall Street. So I stumbled upon doing races. and it felt good.
So when you say unhealthy, was it just like, was there a lot of alcohol or drugs involved? Was there just like, was it just staying up late? Like, what do you mean unhealthy?
I think it's a culmination of everything, right? I think you're not sleeping well. You're completely burnt because it's nonstop. And then everybody's focused on the wrong things, including yourself, right? It's very money, very consumerism driven. It's all silliness and plastic and ridiculousness, right? Yeah. You're upset over things that make no difference. You're chasing things that make no difference. And so just the whole thing blended together just doesn't feel good. But it does in the beginning. Yeah. It's attractive.
It's weird now to even think of you in that industry because it just, I don't know, I guess I just can't picture it. It's strange.
Well, I applied not long into it, I applied a Spartan mentality to it. So I'd be the first one home in bed. I'd be the first one up in the morning. Before you know it, I was taking the employees and we were doing yoga together, right? We were taking customers out, doing long, crazy adventures. So I just, again, it took time for me to figure it out, but I applied the way I wanted to live to that industry.
So you've always been into taking care of yourself and being fit, even when you were as unhappy as you were in that time period.
Well, I always went to the gym,
okay.
but there was a moment of time, probably 5 or 6, maybe even more years, where money took the front seat. I mean, it was big money, and I lost priorities.
Did that come about because of your upbringing and the people that were, in Queens that you were surrounded with? Like they probably prioritized money a lot too.
Oh, without a doubt. The neighborhood we grew up in. I heard a great story in Africa. They had found a town where all these amazing runners were coming out of, and so they figured, it must be the food, or it must be the genetics. No, actually, what it was somebody there had won a marathon, one of the world, big marathons, and won a Mercedes. And so all the young kids saw that Mercedes, saw that big house on the hill, saw how he got those things, and started running. And so when you grow up around anything like that, could be marathoning. In my case, it was money and people doing bad things. You aspire to be that.
Yeah.
Right? Because they had the power, they had the respect, they had the money, and then I'm on Wall Street. And it's clean money. We're not doing anything illegal.
Right.
Right? Now you're at a whole other level, but still chasing the wrong thing.
You get burned out, then you decide to leave Wall Street, and you say you kind of found yourself doing these adventure races. So when does it come, when do you say, you know what, I can do these better than other people are doing them?
Well, I mean, I grew up in a neighborhood where everybody was an entrepreneur, whether they were doing it legally or illegally, right? Everybody's a hustler. And so that I'm wired that way. So I actually, unlike a lot of people who have to convince themselves to maybe someday start a business, I have to unconvince myself 20 times a day to not start a business. I just naturally want to start businesses. Yeah. Oh my God, this is unbelievable. We should make these, or whatever, right? And so, so very quickly, I was so in love with this idea of getting out of my comfort zone, of getting to breaking points and pushing limits and being outside in the wilderness, that I said, I want to do this. I want to do this as a business. Now, it started as a hobby, and then it became a very expensive, stupid hobby because I was blowing so much money. But then it eventually turned into Spartan.
How many people were you doing it with at that point? Like, were you a couple friends and just kind of just rolling around?
I actually started as a legit business back in like 2001. Put somebody in charge of it, hired a few people. The name was Peak.com, Peak.com. Crazy story with Peak.com. I'm just remembering, but and we got it going. And it lost $500,000 right away. What
was the crazy story?
The crazy story was I paid $1 million for Peak.com for that URL back in 2001, and then I tried to run this business for a decade, and I tried to build a social network, and I tried to put on races, but I lost money year after year. It was a complete ridiculous dream that I was chasing. Nobody was coming out to do these things. I used to have to tell people that they were coming out for a barbecue. and not tell them that it was a race, because who would want to come out and do, and then only later when they were like, why are we walking up the mountain at 6 a.m.? Oh, the barbecue's at the end. Don't worry, it's going to be great.
Yeah, you didn't tell them it was like 50 miles away.
Exactly.
So even still, though, you have peak races is something you still are involved with. You still run that, don't you?
Peak races we still run. It's a tiny little business. It's only for the truly crazy people.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I looked it up after doing the death race, and I was like, I can't do these. Like, I'm not like those bike races. I'm not equipped for that.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah. Do you still do those types of races, or have you?
I did a month ago. I did a 50-miler. I ran a 50-miler just to
limber up, just to loosen up.
Just to loosen up, warm up.
And that's just not. Did you train for that, or was that just like?
I have an amazing protocol. Very much like a boxer. You know, if you watch Rocky or any of those old movies where boxers get out of shape and then they get back in shape, I maintain a static level of fitness where I do my body weight routine every single day. It's an hour and a half. A tiny run. It could be a mile and a half. I don't run that much. And then if I get called to action, if I got to get in the ring, I've put this system together where it's basically like 14, 15 days of training, and it's just brutal. It's basically 10 miles a day, 300 burpees, and 150 pull-ups. And if you could do that for 14, 15 days in a row, you're pretty much ready for prison. You're ready for anything.
Okay, so anybody going into this death race that may have been slacking.
You've now got a protocol.
Now that's something that they could do, or if it's a tough Spartan race coming up, the world champion, they want to get this, they want to be in the world championships, they want to go for the $1 million, and I know that's something that I have questions about. That's a protocol they could do, and that's something that I wanted to ask about, because when I read about this or I read comments about it or social media, comments, it seems that people complain that they don't understand, the rules or whatever. Like, can you clear this up for me? Because it seems pretty clear for me that if you win all three, you get the money, and that's it.
So it's going to sound a little more complex than it is, right? So I wanted to come up with a formula. So if you get first place at the first race, which is a 13-mile event, Tahoe, first championship, end of September, October, right? You get 1 point. You got first place. You get second place. You get 2 points. Third place, 3 points. 4, 5. You then go on to Sparta, Greece, right? Same thing. You get first place, second place. Depending on what you get points. You then go on to Sweden. You're at the third championship. Now you're rubber meets the road.
Mm-hmm.
Had you come in, male or female, first, you're up to 2 points. You've got to do 100 miles as a male. You've got to do 80 miles as a female. Deduct those points from that mileage. So if you ran 100, deduct 2, you got 98. If you ran 80 as a female, deduct 2, you got 78. That's $1 million. You win. If you get 77 points as a female, or 90, you see, it's simple, but it starts to feel a little complicated. The reality is, first and 100, $1 million.
Yeah, so you just get first.
Just get everything. First, but second gets substantial money too. I think second, and even short miles don't. It's like 75, 80 grand. Like, it's substantial, even more, because there's also prize money at each one of those events. So
okay.
It's you could make your whole year.
How difficult is it to capture that $1 million?
Oh, it's easy. Yeah. Everybody's going to be able to do it. You can do it. Yeah, anybody can do it.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's like winning the lottery. It's simple.
Yeah, I got it. But do you think, like, okay, your heyday, would this be something that you would go after?
I am not fast. No, $1 million, everybody's got to go after it. You got to go after it. You got to just see where do you you got to go for it.
Yeah.
It's but I was never fast. I couldn't hang with these. Like, my best ever performance in a short distance race, Hobie Call had raced, don't hold me to the exact time. He had done, I'm giving you rough numbers because I don't remember exactly, but it was probably 2012, 2013. He had run a sprint in Tuxedo in like 39 and a half minutes. I ran it in 43. Right? For me, that might as well have been a gold medal. That's the best I'd ever get. So, yeah, but that's not, that's believe it or not, that's way back.
That's good though, man. I mean,
It's good for me.
Crazy.
It's good for me.
Sweden is replacing Iceland,
Sweden replaces Iceland.
and so it'll be brand new. No one's ever run that course.
No one's ever run that course.
How,
It'll be all downhill.
when do you go out and scout how you're putting that together? How long?
Teams go out about 6 months
Okay.
in advance. Take a look at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do they report to you and say, "Here's what we're thinking"?
No,
Okay,
These guys, our teams are amazing.
Okay.
They handle all that.
that's good though.
I just say make it hard.
Yeah. Are you a hard guy to work for?
I'm probably pretty hard to work for. My thing is if I'm not talking to you much, that means you're doing a great job.
Oh, all
I'm
right.
going to leave you alone. If I'm in your shorts and we're talking every day, we're probably not where we need to be.
Okay, that means somebody's not pulling their weight.
I don't know if they're not pulling their weight because I have expectations that are beyond possible, and so maybe I'm seeking. But again, I grew up in a place where you worked until the job got done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have an office we have a bunch of offices overseas. I happened to be in one the other day, and you know, half the office was working from home. Very common these days at every office. And I said to the young kids, all in their 20s, I said, listen, it doesn't matter to me. You guys are going to get your job done whether you're home or in the office. But I want to tell you, when I was growing up, when I was looking to make my way up, if you want to climb the ladder, you probably want to be in the office when the owner's in town.
Yeah.
And you probably want to be in the office before the owner gets in the office. And you probably want to stay later. That's just my 2 cents.
No, that seems common sense though to me. Still, maybe it's because that's the way I grew up too.
Yeah.
Like if the owner doesn't come a lot, you show up when he's there or she's there.
Yeah.
I read this, and again, it's on Wikipedia, so there's a 50-50 shot here. Were you? Did you come up with the? I don't know if it was the death race concept or the Spartan race concept. You were on a race and you had to dig a hole or you were in snow or something.
We had done. I did a team of 4 of us. I was so in love with these races that I asked my friend, like, what's harder than that? I need to really just push myself and break myself. And my friend said, well, you could do the Iditarod in Alaska, the dog sled race by foot. And so we went out there. And it was brutal. There was a massive snowstorm. Red Bull was a sponsor. They brought a Russian tank to the start line just for the effect. It sunk, disappeared. So just to show you how much it was snowing.
Yeah.
And so we spent, I don't know, the next 12 days or whatever in 30 below temps.
Hey.
And it was ugly. I mean, I was in an igloo with Eskimos trying to stay warm for an hour with my teammates. The igloo was the size of this table. It felt like the Four Seasons. I did not want to leave that igloo. So,
Was that the most uncomfortable you've ever been?
Most uncomfortable I've ever been, I was in a car accident, and I was thrown out the window at 85 miles an hour, and my leg was ripped out of my hip. That was the most uncomfortable I've ever been.
Jeez.
That was awful.
Oof. How long did that take to recover?
Well, it's another funny story. So
There's humor in that? Okay, well.
So my dad, the reason I was even in the car, my dad had a heart attack. So I was driving from Vermont, from the farm with a friend of mine, down to New York to come see him in the hospital. We were halfway there. My friend fell asleep, hit a tree. I went out the window. Leg is ripped out of my hip. They knock me out in the hospital. They break my hip to put my femur bone back into the socket. And wake up, and I'm still on the mission. I got to go see my dad. So I get to that hospital, St. Francis, 6 hours later, and they admit me in that because I wasn't supposed to leave the hospital I was in. I finally get out of that because I don't want to be trapped in the hospital. I want to get home.
Right.
And I go see doctors, and doctors are like, you're not going to be able to run again. Right, you're not going to be able to do this again. You're not going to be able to do that. So I just kept going to doctors until I found a doctor that told me what I wanted to hear. I was like on my 7th doctor, Cornell Medical School here in New York, Dr. Sue. And I don't know if you're too young to remember Bo Jackson.
Come on.
I don't know.
With the bat?
Yeah, exactly.
Bo knows.
So Bo had a very similar injury.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dr. Sue came up with this plan and said, look, it's all about blood flow. The femoral artery runs through the femur head. You've compromised it just like Bo did. We got to get blood back there, but you can't do what Bo did. You can't get back on the field and take the pounding. But you could probably cycle, you could probably swim. So that was the year I did 14 Ironman. I just, they say sometimes an athlete gets injured, they come back stronger. I think, not that I'm an athlete, because I'm not, but I think I was so scared of being like out of the game that I went like overboard. And so I didn't answer any question there. I'm just reminiscing.
No, but I'm lost in your stories. So like I'm hoping you keep going, because it's like every time you talk, I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
Because I'm remembering some stuff that I've heard, and I don't know if some of them are rumors, and that's why I keep bringing them up.
Yeah.
Did you and Don Saladino, who you know and who does this show with me normally, he told me that you ran from Vermont to New York City and had an ice truck follow you. Is that true?
I ran New York to Vermont.
New York to Vermont, sorry.
I ran New York to Vermont. I did it. I raised money for hospice care. And basically what happened was, it was actually at the end of that year that I just described, I think. I was coming off my last Ironman. My wife was very pregnant. She was about to pop with our first kid. And she said, "What are we doing here? Are we having kids and a family, or are you going to do Iron? Like, what's your plan?" So I said, "All right." I called, an audible, right, timeout. And I went for a run that morning. It was the day after I just finished a race in Switzerland. And I went for a run, and I felt fucking unstoppable. I felt so good. Sometimes you get in the flow state, that I didn't want to not capitalize on that feeling. So that was a Sunday. So I sent an email out that night to everybody I knew in New York and said, "Hey guys, I'm going to run from New York to Vermont. I'm going to raise money for hospice care. Anybody want to donate a penny or $1 or whatever?" We raised 30 grand. And that Wednesday I ran 300, just shy of 300 miles to Pittsfield, Vermont.
Are you stopping? Or are you just what's
so
going?
I had a couple of buddies follow me, and it was funny because they leapfrogged each other so they could get a break. And every 3 miles, tiny little thing of food, a vitamin, a salt pill, water. We had a routine. It was every 3 miles. All right, you wait here, then somebody goes 3 miles ahead, and sure enough, I'm like, man, I'm getting so slow. Mile 170, mile 180, like. I'm not hitting the cars the way I used to. Well, unbeknownst to me, they were getting tired. So they started parking 4 miles away, then 5 miles away. Before you know it, they're 9 miles away. I still hold a grudge over that.
You move your family every few, or you did at least, I think, right? Every few years you move around?
Yeah.
Why do you do that?
Just keep it fresh and exciting. Keep the pressure on them. You don't want anybody settling in, right? Got to keep them on their toes.
And it is a really good education too for them, I'm sure.
That's great. You got to make new friends. You got to eat new food. We got to navigate. Like, it's hard. Like, it's one of the most stressful things a person can do is move, right? And get a new job, and so I want to keep that stress on. And
that's the funny part about it is everybody complains about moving, and yet it's like something that you're looking forward to. But I also think it's really cool. Again, I had a daughter 6 months ago, and we're not moving anytime. We signed a lease and all, but it's like we talked about that, my wife and I. It's like, when we were doing research for this, it's like, Joe moves his family often. She was like, that's really cool.
You guys should do it. Yeah, you should do it. And by the way, anybody listening, if they want to move to Vermont, we have a farm there, and you just got to work. By the way, I invite millions of people to Vermont. Right, and very few take me up on it because nobody really wants to do the work.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask too about. In your book, you have people. You tell stories about people that have come up to your farm, and have had issues and have asked you for help.
It's like Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, and the training that you put him through is pretty intense.
Yeah, you're mixing cement, you're carrying it to the top of the mountain, right? You're carrying buckets here and there, you're fixing stone stairs. It's work. But by the way, it's like you would take that over this any day of the week. Like sitting in front of a computer, the worst.
But it's also, their diet changes drastically. I think you fed one person just apples. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And didn't you wake them up and have them jump in a pond? And I mean, but I mean, is this to? I have to think that there's a method behind this, right? Don't you want to shake them out of, or you want to get them out of their comfort zone and start
to? I mean, first off, if they're showing up in Vermont, they're seeking change. Right. They this is extreme wellness. This is not right. Like, check yourself into the Four Seasons if you want to go that route. But this is you're asking me to do it, right? And I'm approaching it as if I was in that situation. What would I want? Everybody wants to eat healthy. They just can't do it, so I force it. Everybody wants to work out every day. They just can't do it, so I force it. Right?
Is it weird for you to find that when you found yourself in this position, that people started to come to you asking you for this type of help? I mean, you were a Wall Street guy, and then you started these businesses. But then it was like, hey Joe, help me lose weight, or hey Joe, like I want to get stronger. And was it just kind of strange that people started to come to you asking you for this type of advice?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm just one of those guys. I've always attracted tons of people to come around and just join the mission, whatever it is I'm tackling, even on Wall Street or my business before that. So, and my dad had that same knack for just pulling people in. Like, if you thought you were going to my dad's house to go see a movie, before you know it, you were hanging sheetrock. And you don't even know how it happened. And so, no, it might seem weird from the outside, but my whole life has been that way.
In the book, you say, you're seeking true north, and it's what makes it easy to say fuck you to distractions. Mm-hmm. Did you know what that was early on, or were you able to find that, and is it something that you think changes consistently?
I think it changes over time. For me, it's been about every 10 or 15 years my true north changes. For me, at first, it was like, am I tough enough? I was comparing myself to all these guys that are killing people for a living and going to jail, and I wanted to, do I measure up? And so everything was about like building my own business, improving things to myself, and then it became money. And my true north became like, how much money can I make on Wall Street? How do I get some FU money? And then and then it became family, and so now it's family and purpose. But now I just want to help people.
Well, you have 4 kids. Yep. Was that planned in the sense of, obviously you plan a family, but did you and your wife discuss, like, we want 4 kids, or was it just we want a big family, or was it just...
I asked for 7 on our first date. Actually, you might not know this. I had known my wife about 2 weeks, and not a gambler, happened to be near a casino, driving by, and I said, let's go in. And I said, why don't we go to the roulette wheel? What's your number? She said 8 because she played soccer. Her number was 8. What's your number? I said 36. For whatever reason, that's my number. Red 36. She's black 8. I said, why don't we put money on black 8 and 36? If black 8 hits, you leave. We never see each other again. 36 hits, we get married on the spot. 36 hit.
Wow.
Is that crazy?
That is crazy. How long did you date your wife before you guys got married?
So that was about a month into not even 2 weeks into our relationship, and then we were married a year later.
That is quite the question to ask, though, on the first date, or quite, or quite the statement to say.
Well, you want to know what you're dealing with, right? Well, don't waste time.
Sure, yeah, wear it on your sleeve. I mean, it's not like, are you a Pisces? It's, no. 7 kids or 8 kids. I talked to you last year, I believe, about you're making a push to get Spartan Race as an Olympic sport. Yep. How difficult has that been?
It's going to be a process. We've got some wind in our favor. You've got LA, right? 2028. In the meantime, we've been getting all the governing bodies together all around the world, so we'll be able to check all the boxes if and when it's about to happen. I don't see how it can't happen. There's so much interest in this space, and I would think the Olympics wants to remain relevant and get eyeballs. So I think breakdancing is cool that they announced. Certainly surfing, skateboarding, but like, this is big.
Right. Well, that was what I was going to ask. What Olympic sports are there now that could be subbed out or replaced?
I mean, curling's cool. Rhythmic gymnastics. Go down the list.
Is it cool? Are these cool? I don't know. I mean,
pentathlon's awesome, right? Pentathlon, like an old sport, right? There's 10,000 participants globally that participate in pentathlon, right? Yeah. So like, there's a lot of room there to, and it doesn't mean any of the sports have to go away. They just have to reduce the number of medals, reduce the number of athletes or whatever, and give us some room.
Right. And but do you think by the time LA rolls around, do you think that this should be all clear? I mean, do you see any major hiccups happening?
I think becoming an Olympic sport is going to be about as hard as it is to earn the $1 million this year. It's going to be hard, but what good happens in your life that isn't hard?
Right. And I mean, is this basically the ultimate goal for the brand? I mean, I know you, and I do want to talk about a lot of the other projects you have going on with it, but I mean, is this really the ultimate goal you see for it? Like, if it gets there, do you feel like you've really reached that?
Big deal, yeah. Be with the family and be at the Olympics and watch. I mean, it would be unbelievable.
I feel like they got to give you a pretty solid seat. You know, like,
I would think I'd get a seat. Who knows? It doesn't really matter to me if I. Maybe the only thing I'd want is on my tombstone, like the rings.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Are you working on another book already?
2 more books. Yeah.
You don't just do one thing at a time, do you?
You can't. You gotta be running in parallel. Life's too short.
What? Okay, so you just wrote the Spartan Way, which was about the training and about dieting, like really just
basically
about
10 principles, 10 ancient principles that if you nail these principles, you will nail life, whatever it is you're going after, right? So that was that, and now I'm working on a parenting book.
Okay.
Basically Spartan parenting, and I'm working on a fiction book for kids. Like, when I think about the things that influenced me as a kid, watching The Godfather and watching Marlon Brando talk about, like, stay away from drugs, we're not touching drugs, that sentence changed the whole trajectory. I never touch a drug because of that sentence. So there are little things that happen in a kid's life that can put them in the right direction or the wrong direction. And so I've got this idea that I've been working on for actually a number of years in my head on this fiction book, and we're pen to paper now.
And your wife has 2 kids books too, right? Children's books.
She's got little kids books, yes.
Okay, so she's writing more for like a much younger audience.
Exactly.
So you're writing for parents and then a fiction book. Okay, so you guys are both busy.
We're both busy.
I mean, plus you got 4 kids.
And maybe a 5th we'll have. Who knows?
Oh, really?
Yeah, once the books are done.
Yeah. And so you're also like on the media side of things. So with Spartan, I know you're always pushing to go to more places and do new races. You're always adding races, but are you trying to do? I know I've seen film crews. You know, even at the Death Race there was film crews, and at some Agogis there's been film crews. What are they filming, and what is ultimately do you want to see happen with all this footage?
You know, at the end of the day, we've built a tribe, right? A religion, if you will, a very healthy movement, and I think it's important to document that stuff. So we're documenting it all, and who knows? Maybe we'll have some documentaries come out here in the next 6 to 12 months. But lots of documenting over the years, and now trying to put it all together.
Do you ever want to do anything that's in like the fictional space with film or TV too?
Stay tuned. That's my big dream. Is that'll be the last thing I got to get done. So it'll be the 5 rings on my tombstone and that full featured film.
What's your daily routine? What time do you get up?
4:50. Right to 2 big glasses of water. I've got all my little tinctures and droplets and stuff I take. I go right to my body weight routine. I do my little run. I got to wake the kids up. They got to do their routine. I now have a parrot. I get the parrot screaming as loud as he can because I want the whole house awake by 5:30. And then I'm out the door and to work.
So do you go to work in an office?
I didn't forever, and now I'm back in an office. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
So, and that's actually a question I had. So do you have... so you have investors, so you have a board of directors.
Yep.
Do you often clash with what they want in your view of things, and how do you like resolve those conflicts?
No, they agree with everything I say.
They must, right? You have to because they will lose.
It never works that way.
Yeah.
It's been a learning process for me. It's interesting. We have a board. We have investors. They've been extremely helpful over the years. They've been resistant to a bunch of my harebrained ideas, some good and some not. But look, everybody needs a board of directors. Everybody, whether you have a business or not, like a personal board. They hold you accountable. They ask tough questions. Left to our own devices, we we look in a mirror, we think everything we say is perfect, right? So I got to be right 51% of the time. Hopefully they could help me avoid those 49% of the mistakes I make. So yeah. And how do I resolve the clashes?
Yes.
You work it out. I'm older now. I've learned a lot. You know, if there's young people listening here, I would say, man, I wish I knew then what I know now.
Were you more of a hothead about, like, say, 10 years?
Yeah,
15 years
like
ago?
wanting to win. Like
Okay.
like who cares? Who cares? Win it, like, you know, lose the battle, win the war. And just because, like, you know, I was telling you before we started this, Theo Epstein, right? He crushed it with the Red Sox, crushed it with the Cubs, and when you talk to him, he's like, when a team recognizes that they should take the heat individually for mistakes, even when they didn't make them, and they should give the praise to others even when they don't deserve it, then you got a great team. And so who cares if you're telling the board, great job, I really appreciate it. No, like, it's going to hurt you?
No.
Right? And I wish I could instill this in my kids now that I know this.
How long did it take you to get there? Like, when did that epiphany or that revelation come about?
It only took 50 years.
Oh, that's it?
That's
Like,
it.
And you're 50 now.
And I'm 50 now.
Oh, that's good. So,
Yeah.
all right.
The next 100, I'll be able to deploy these systems.
What does your body weight routine consist of? Did you tell me that before?
Yeah, I told you. I not on this podcast, but it's 22 exercises now. 50, mostly 50 reps of each. Some have 100+ reps in there. Obviously, burpees are in there. Pull-ups are in there. And all types of exercises I've picked up over 40 years, believe it or not. Back in the living room of my mom, a chiropractor, 5 years later, a Japanese wrestling coach, the Marines, and it keeps going up. So, like, had you asked me this 4 years ago, it was 12 exercises, and it just became 22 because I was with the Marines, and I've got this amazing push-up that we do now, that is now at the end of the routine.
Well, how long are you at work for? Like, are you putting in just like an 8-hour day? Or are you just not? Are you there till the job is done? And how long does that normally take? And what time do you cash in?
I try to be out of the office by 5:36.
Okay.
I try.
I think. Well, I just think it's important for people to know, and I just because I see a lot of people here sometimes too often for too long. And it's like you can't put in an 80-hour week all the time and still be productive. It just doesn't work. So, you know,
just by the way, just getting home sometimes at 5, right, and then working in my living room, my dining room is fine.
Right. That's the thing. So I'll do that too. Like just a change of pace and just being home and
get some fresh air.
Yeah. And just being able to get out in the sun and take a run or doing something that's not
break it up.
Yeah.
So we have 3 floors at our headquarters, and you'll see people working on different floors. Like half the day they'll work on one floor, then they go upstairs, moving around.
Yeah, and that's in Boston, right?
In Boston.
Okay, cool. Managing stress, because it's got to be stressful to be you, and I know it's in a sense it's got to be a good thing because you're in a good spot because like you got a successful business, you have a healthy family, but you have to deal with the stresses of shit going wrong sometimes. How do you manage that stress?
I mean, if you think about it, stuff really can't go wrong in our business. I mean, like, what would happen? A hurricane would show up and cancel a race, or somebody would get right. Things don't really.
I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I guess not. But
right?
Yeah.
No, everything that can go wrong goes wrong.
Yeah.
Everything that can go wrong goes wrong. It's a disaster every day. And but I say to myself, and this is a talent that everybody should learn. It could be worse. I mean, you and I could be on the Lewis and Clark expedition right now.
Well, yeah. I think you'd last much, much longer than me. I mean, you were the one in the igloo. I want to be the frozen icicle outside. That's actually one thing I wanted to ask. And you mentioned it to me last year in Vermont, and I always wanted to follow up with it. And you said that did you actually just eat olive oil for when you were?
Yeah.
Is that all you had to eat?
I just did that 50 miles. I did it on avocado oil and 25 almonds.
Huh.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, that's
so we all need. I learned personally through personal experience, you need a lot less food than you think you need.
Huh.
we've got so much fuel in our body that we're not tapping. We're so brainwashed into thinking, I need another power bar, I need this, I need that. I've done races with so little food, but not races for an hour, races for 10 plus days.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out how to get into that, and not just for races that are coming up, but just in general, because I guess I've been conditioned, and not just me, I think most people,
all of us, yeah,
to think that I need something that I clearly don't. So breaking that is going to be difficult. So
what's a typical day look like? What do you eat?
I don't eat that much, actually. Today so far, I had 3 eggs in the morning when I got up, and then I had it was like a salad type of a thing that my wife gave me. That was about it.
Sounds like my day. I had 3 eggs for breakfast with a bunch of avocado. I had a salad for lunch, and I just ate a bunch of cashews.
Yeah.
But that's the day. And then tonight I'd probably have some vegetables and maybe a shrimp or 2. But when you eat that way, I found you're not that hungry, really.
But it's weird because when I remember I didn't eat, sometimes I'm like, I didn't eat, so I've got to be hungry.
It's psychological.
Yeah, it's like I've got to be.
It's a cue.
But I'm really not until I start to think that.
Yep.
And sometimes I'm just thirsty. But it's just strange to me because I always do remember that you said, when I said something like, "Oh, I gotta have this," and you were like, "Nah, you just need some oil or something." I was like, what? And then I looked it up and I started looking, and I'm like, you know what, man, if he could do that, then I really don't need that much.
You don't need that much.
And it was just interesting to me. And I think it goes back to something we spoke about not long ago about physical preparedness, attention to detail, and mental toughness. And I guess it's like, how do you get more mentally tough? How do you do that?
Well, I mean, if you wanted to play the piano, what would you do? You practice piano.
I slammed my head against it because I would just give up immediately. No,
you want to learn how to write. What would you do? You practice writing.
Right.
You work with a coach, whatever. And so it's no different. If you want to be tough, you practice tough.
But then it's like you also have to understand that there's going to be mistakes made, right? So you have to build that in, and you have to not be so.
Well, the good news when you're practicing tough, mistakes are good. It's more practice.
I guess you're right.
There's no downside there to making mistakes.
And I guess that's a good point, because I think sometimes what happens, myself and I think a lot of other people as well, is that you try something new, maybe you go to balls to the wall first, and then you get really frustrated because you didn't nail it out of the park, and it's like you taper off instead of just being realistic with it and understanding that like you have to keep being consistent.
Consistency is key. I again, 18 years of building Spartan, 15 of which we lost money. So you just don't stop. You just stay on it.
How do you stay in business when you're losing money?
You beg and you borrow.
See, that's something that I guess, and I've never had to be in that position, so I didn't have to do it. Was that something that was difficult for you to ask?
Yeah, it was difficult because I didn't know it was going to work. So now you're borrowing from people, they're investing in you, and this might be a disaster.
So 15 years it loses money, and then when it starts turning a profit.
Kind of like having a kid, you'll see.
Yeah, I know.
15 years of losing money.
I know,
and then they tell you you're an idiot.
I know, it's weird. She wants new diapers all the time, and she always wants to eat. Gosh.
I just yelled at the 4 kids as a joke, just like you did. You guys want a roof over your head? You want food? Never stops.
I'm sure that though I'm sure you got them helping out. I'm sure they
not enough. They have it way too easy. My kids, way too easy.
Well, they were actually. I met 2 of them last year, and they were really, really well behaved. And
good.
Very polite. So.
Oh, when you tie them to a tree like that, though, it's hard.
Right.
For them, right?
Yeah, they couldn't talk or move, so it was really easy to.
Exactly.
But what else with Spartan can we expect? Unless it's something you want us to look forward to.
Well, trail is a big one, right? Spartan Trail we launched, so that's fun for people that are not ready for the obstacles yet. Let them get out on the trail.
So it's just a race around it. Is it just a trail?
It's a race through the woods, just getting outside, right, and connecting with the earth. And then Spartan Shoe is pretty amazing. I brought you some shoes. I don't know if you saw that video or not, but I basically I've been testing the shoes. Did you see that video?
No one told me.
Are you going to flip out when you see this video? But basically, I've been waiting 3 years. Give me the box of shoes. Wait till you see these. It's almost, if you're listening out there, this is not a setup. He legitimately didn't know. So I've been waiting 3 years to have my own shoebox.
Oh, wow.
And my thinking on this is, and I mean this when I say it, when I was a kid, I wanted Adidas Superstars, but they were like $50. My mother wasn't going to get them. And then you finally get them, right? You tell your grandfather you want ice cream money, but you use it for the sneakers, whatever. You get the sneakers, and they get dirty, and they get worn, right? And it just drove me nuts that people go through white sneakers as often as they do, especially when I just read an article that they found 970,000 flip-flops on an island off of Australia that are washed up on shore. Oh. That's just one island, tiny island, right? So complete waste with shoes. So I get this box, and I'm like, you know what do we stand for? The shoes have to wash and get clean, because I don't want people throwing them away, right? And I don't want them to end up on an island off Australia. They've got to drain. They've got to be indestructible. And so I get these things. What size are you, by the way?
10. These
are 10. All right, you
Nice.
are hooked up. So I bring them up to the farm. You've been on the farm.
Yes.
This is a true story. I got to show you the video. And I decide, you know what? I'm going to run them over with the Jeep, because I want to see, like, do they fall apart, right?
Right. Yeah.
Then what I do is I smash them with the bucket of the backhoe, and I drag them back. Then I put them under the excavator bucket, which is 50,000 pounds. Then I throw them in the ocean overnight with a kettlebell, and I leave them underwater, right? Ran 50 miles, did another 50 in training, ran the super, washed and dried them 5 times, and they're still going strong. So then I sent them, you're going to love this, I sent them to the Brecon Beacons, where the SAS train in the UK, same pair. And then I just sent them to Africa. So they're going to go through the Agoge in Africa. And so, look, this is the first version. They're not going to be perfect, but they're pretty damn good. And I decided I'm going to guarantee them for a year, because nobody guarantees shoes for a year.
Damn, man.
So there's your shoe.
Thank you.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. I'd say that's a pretty solid test, too.
It's a good test, right?
I think
and
so.
They're still going. They're going to keep going until they fail.
Yeah, that's wow. So have you been following have you been keeping up on them?
Oh yeah, I get videos as they travel around the world.
Nice.
So Australia, Brecon Beacons,
nice, man.
Africa. They're going to be in Japan, Singapore. I'm just going to beat the shit out of them until I see where the failure points are, so we can make a better, we're just, every month we're going to iterate until these are the most badass shoes on earth.
Well, dude, I'm excited to test mine out. I'll walk around this office with them. No, this is thank you, Joe. Really, this is awesome. Yeah, that must have been really cool though too, for the box to show up. Yeah,
I mean, look at that word.
Yeah,
this is just
that's really cool.
Awesome.
And so how long did you have this in your head?
Oh, this has been 3 years in the making. This is like a big project.
Yeah, how many ideas
Too many.
are in? Yeah, I was gonna say,
many.
like,
I can't even.
Do you have notebooks filled with ideas, and you just flip around one day? Yeah, I was gonna say, or do they just stay up in here and then eventually
you spit them out? You put them on whiteboard. You write notes. Yeah.
Man, and when you have an idea that must come out, do you have a staff member that you, or somebody that you call and say, like, jot this down, this is the one I'm working on now? Like, how do you decide?
I quickly vomit it up on my screen on my computer, and then try to figure out who will listen to me within the organization.
I mean, but you're the boss. Everyone's got to listen.
It doesn't work that way.
No?
It doesn't work that way.
I don't know, man. I feel like you're walking around and saying something.
I mean, they might not listen, but they might delay that, you know what I mean? Because I am one of these people that just, it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
No one could keep up with all the stuff I'm spewing out, so.
But is that what makes something like the Death Race so cool for you? Because
everybody listens.
Everybody's got to listen.
Yeah.
So you're saying something and everyone's going to have to react. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool to have that power. I mean, I've never had that, and I think it would be pretty sick to have it for one day. Like, just to be able to say something and then have to watch the reaction, or like the chain reaction.
Maybe we'll try that.
But this is awesome, man. This is really,
we'll send
really
you the video. You got to see the video.
Yeah, I'd love to see the video. I didn't know anything about it. This is cool. But
all right.
Listen, man.
Don't say I never gave you anything.
I will. That, and also you also told me that I would never make it through the Death Race, which you happened to be right last year, and this year I hope you're wrong. But
we'll give it a shot. I don't know if anybody will finish this year, but you could certainly try.
I'm going to try. Although
I wouldn't hold it against you if you decided not to come.
No, I'm
It
coming.
would be fine.
I'm going to be there. I'm
Okay.
definitely going to be there. I am not.
I'm just saying,
not-
for reputational purposes, if you didn't want to come, it would be fine.
My reputation is horrendous as it is. So no, I'm definitely going to be there. I mean, but it's exactly what you said, and it's exactly
What you wanted.
yeah. But it's also how we ended the video that we did last year. What you said to me on the mountain is you get to be here, and that is what I took with me, and
Right.
that's exactly the way I felt.
Right.
I felt privileged,
Yeah.
and I felt like I got to do something. I was physically able to do something, even as crazy and weird and nuts, and as at times I felt like it was super like strange. I still felt really privileged to be there, and
Awesome.
I took a lot away from it. And
How are you at long distance swimming?
not to brag, but I have been called the Michael Phelps of my generation. No, I mean, not terrific, but I mean, look, I'm.
10, 15 miles, no problem?
I mean, I usually do that in the tub. No, I mean,
You'll be fine this year. Then.
Yeah, I mean, look, my thing is this: you go for it.
Right.
My thing this year is I want to work on it the best I can. Is attitude, mental, staying positive at all cost if I can. I want to, because last year there were times where I just dipped mentally, and that paired with my life straw breaking and running out of water and having no iodine, and I was done. It was over, and I got yanked, and the medic was like, "You're out of here," and I was like, "No, I could do it." I could hear myself slurring,
Sure.
and it just was like not working. And I don't know if it would have helped, but I know that keeping, like, it goes back to mental toughness. If I would have been able to tell myself, "You're fine," enough, I think I would have been able to overcome it. And this year I want to do it,
All right,
no matter
let's
what.
see what happens.
Cool, man. Well, listen, I want to thank you for coming, man.
You're awesome.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe DeSena. Thank you, Joe.